Good afternoon. It's now 3 o'clock, and I'll call this meeting to order, the January the 21st meeting of the Rockingham County Board of Elections. And I appreciate everybody being here, and thank you for adjusting to our time. Being the day after Martin Luther King holiday, the Board of County Commissioners will meet here after we do, and so we had to back our time up from our normal 3 o'clock to 2 o'clock. But I welcome everyone here. I would remind you, if you have cell phones, please turn them off or turn them down so that they won't ring during the meeting. And also remind the staff and board members, as well as anybody speaking to the public or for the public, to speak clearly and directly into the microphone so that we'll be able to hear and understand what's being said. At this time, I would ask for an approval of the agenda. Is there a motion and a second to approve the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda, adding an item number 7, unfinished business. Number 8 would be new business. Number 9 would be an executive session pursuant to 143-31811.A3 to consult with the attorney, and A6 for personnel. Number 10 would be adjournment.
I'll second.
Okay, go. Okay, what would be the new number 7?
Unfinished business.
And so new business would be number 8.
Right.
And number 9?
Executive session. A6, A3, and A6. A3 is to consult with the attorney, and A6 is personnel.
Okay, A6 is already on there.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just
All right, there's a
correcting
motion and a second to amend the agenda to include those items. Is there any discussion? If not, I'll call a question. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries to amend the agenda as stated. The next item is the approval of the minutes of December 17th meeting. I have a question on that under the approval of the agenda. Member Ferguson cited 2 statutes to go into executive session. North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11, A5, and 143-318.11, A6, concerning personnel. I'm not sure about the first one, A5. What was, I got a copy of it. It says to establish or to instruct the public bodies, staff, or negotiating agents concerning the position to be taken by or on behalf of the public body in negotiating the price or other material terms of a contract or proposed contract for the acquisition of real property by purchase, option, exchange, or lease, or the amount of compensation or other material terms of an employment contract or proposed employment contract. Can you?
I think that, Mr. Chair, was supposed to be 3 instead of 5, to consult with the attorney, but the attorney was not here that day, so we did not get to do that.
Okay. All right. So the minutes of the December meeting, that should be A3?
Yes, sir.
The same thing we added today. Okay. All right. I'll ask for a motion to approve the December 17th, 2019 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
Well, we need to do that correction
With the correction
of
Okay.
Marie.
of
All right.
A3.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion and second to approve the minutes from the December meeting with the change of 143-318.11A3 instead of A5. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carried. The next item on the agenda is public comments. And since the director has the case of laryngitis, I'm going to ask the senior director, or the deputy director, to read our rules regarding public comment.
The public comment period shall be for the purpose of allowing members of the public to present any matter pertaining to County Board of Elections business or items on the agenda. This period shall not serve as a forum for debate with the Elections Board. Remarks shall be addressed directly to the Board of Elections, not staff, audience, or media. The chairperson shall open the public comment period. Any speaker who wishes to speak shall rise and speak from the podium. Each speaker shall clearly state his or her name and physical address. Any citizen desiring to speak before the board shall be allotted 3 minutes. Citizens will be allowed to yield their time so that speakers may utilize one more attendee's time. This would allow no more than 6 minutes per speaker. If you are here to yield time or time is yielded to you, then please let the chairman know in advance. Time will be kept by a time clock. Speakers appearing before the Board of Elections will not be allowed to campaign for public office, promote private ventures, use language of a personal nature which insults or demeans any person or which, when directed at a public official, is not related to his or her official duties.
Thank you, Amy. All right, we have 2 people signed up to speak today. The first one is Don Powell. Mr. Powell, please state your name and address.
My name is Don Powell. I live at 636 King Street in Reedsville. Mr. Chairman, I have in my hand some emails that was obtained through the Freedom of Information Act. I have a copy for each member of the board and one from Ms. Simpson. Can I approach and give these to you?
That'd be fine.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Ladies and gentlemen, the emails that you have in front of you were obtained from Ms. Carterville's county email account for the dates of December the 31st and January the 2nd. And if you look on the first page, you'll see that this first email has to do with a housewarming shower that was to be held at the office, a floating shower from 1 to 4 p.m. on Friday, January the 17th. This was sent to an undisclosed amount of recipients, and it was a housewarming party, I assume, for one of the employees of the department there. And on the second page, you'll see where this list of things that she wished to obtain during this housewarming party was sent out. And then on the fourth page, you'll see on January the 2nd, where a change of plans had occurred and the shower would be a floating shower from 1 to 4 on Wednesday, January the 15th. And in fact, that party or that shower was held. And so let me say in starting this that I think it's very honorable that people would do this for a coworker. I have a problem with doing it on the county time, so to speak, the county's dime from 1 to 4. Had this been done during a lunch hour break, I think it would have been purely acceptable and appropriate. But the question would be begged from the taxpayers such as myself is if we can do the county's business from 8 to 12, then we probably would not need. I would ask to extend my time some, so it took some time giving you out your things, if that's okay with the chairman. Is that okay?
I'll extend your time for 1 minute.
Thank you, sir. So, as I was saying, if we can do the county's business in this election office from 8 to 12, basically, then it might be prudent that we close the office and save the taxpayers money. The other issue here would be if the staff took lunch from 12 to 1, then we now have typically an office that's unmanned or unfunctional from 12 until 4 in the afternoon. And there again, let me just say to you once again that I have absolutely no problem with a housewarming party for somebody, and congratulations to this lady. I do not know her personally, but I do see that there's a problem with doing this on the county's time and on the taxpayers' dime, and I hope that you would take this into consideration, and if there needs to be some revisions to policy that would prevent this in the future, I certainly hope you would take this under consideration. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, the next person to speak is Ron Price. Please state your name and address.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Ron Price. I live at 218 Cedar Run in Reedsville, North Carolina. I'm here to speak about the problems that we have with the government and elected officials overstepping their bounds. The legislature at the federal government level and at state level have abrogated their responsibility in overseeing the government operations. And what they have done is they have created organizations and given bureaucrats the right to legislate and make law. They are law-forming organizations. A good example is the EPA. This is a problem when we have unelected officials making laws, as we see in a number of cases, very prevalent at the federal level. We recently had a situation here in North Carolina where a federal district judge overturned the vote of the people. That federal district judge, which has a limited area, and she spoke on behalf of the whole state in overturning voter ID, which was passed by the people in a majority, so that we had legislation that was made available to protect the integrity of our election process. We need to be wary of what's going on around us when our laws and the will of the people are overturned, especially when it's a clear example of a federal district judge making a decision to override the people's choice. Clearly making legislation from the bench. A district judge, a federal district judge, or any judge for that matter, they have a responsibility to interpret the law and not make laws. So we need to be aware of that, and I promote everyone to be cognizant of what's going on around us in these situations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Price. All right, the next item on the agenda, item number 5, is the 2020-2021 budget. Of course, this will become effective the 1st of July through the end of July of 2021.
The end of June.
I'm sorry, end of June, thank you. End of June 2021. And I will defer to the director. Do we have information on what, I don't, as I understand, we're not making a decision on that day. We're given the information to
Yes.
to
Yes, what you have in your packets is a copy of the current budget that was approved, a copy and also the previous budget that was approved, and you can see previous years. You all have seen this before. What I am asking is that if you would review this information and be prepared to come to your February meeting, your regular meeting in February, with any discussion that you all want to hold, and go ahead and with whatever changes, whatever request you would like to make of the commissioners at that meeting. So then that'll give time to get it keyed into our system, make sure everything is indicated in the budget request as you all prefer, prior to you voting on it. And then that way we will have time to get it into the county.
When do we submit our request?
I think it was
or
March
proposed
8th
budget?
last year. Don't have the schedule calendar yet, but I think the commissioners are having a retreat Friday. So we'll be getting information from Paul about due dates, what's due when.
Maybe April, May, or somewhere that, or March or April.
No, we had to submit it in March, I think it was last year. But I'll be getting that schedule with those dates. So at your February meeting, that'll give you time between now, and that's on the 18th. That'll give you time to go through this information and go ahead and make your notes, be prepared to come and discuss for each line item what you desire. Do keep in mind, however, that our comparable budget was 18-19. Remember, our budgets are comparable every other year because of the way our election cycle runs. So you have all that information there. And then also a copy of the latest remaining budget totals for this year's budget.
If we discuss it on, at our February meeting, does it give us any time to work on this before it's submitted to the commissioners?
Well, there would be some time. Yes, I don't have the schedule yet, but it would be my hope that between now and the 18th, that's the 18th, February 18th of your regular meeting, that you would have all this information line by line between now and then to go ahead and make any notes that you want to on what your desires would be for
Well,
a
I
request.
understand that, and I think we can all be prepared to do that, but after we all come together with our notes, does that give us any time to work a little bit, any days to work a little bit on it to prepare it for the county
It will,
commissioners so
yes.
that we can discuss and hopefully come
And
to
as soon as I
compromises
get
on
that
it?
schedule, you all will have that schedule and know exactly how much time you'll have.
Tina, refresh my memory. Don't you typically give us one that you're recommending and then we go from there with it?
Yes.
Where is it?
Or is this it that we have?
It hasn't been, the new one hasn't been put together yet.
Oh, it's a little different this time. You're asking us
Yes, ma'am.
to put it together rather
Yes,
than
ma'am.
you do one
So
with your
when you pass it,
suggestions.
by the time that you pass it and you've discussed anything that you want, whatever you all decide to do,
Okay,
you won't pass it and then have concerns come up later.
right.
You'll have already addressed your concerns.
I was just trying to
So
remember how
basically,
we
it'll
had
be
done it.
exactly what you all, as a board, choose to request.
So what's your best educated guess as to how much time there will be between February 18th and the time that it's due to the county commissioners? Just,
A month.
okay.
Do you know, John? I don't either.
Well, Tina, why don't you, I'm not sure they all know what the process is, because you submit it, then it's reviewed by the county manager, and then the commissioners meet with you to discuss.
Sometimes they meet if they have concerns or questions.
Okay,
which
but
some
last
came
time
up.
they did.
They did, yeah.
And then,
Some board, we had
At
some
that,
of our
then
board members
after
had
all that,
concerns.
yeah, okay.
But we would want, and I would hope to get those concerns taken care of by you as a board prior
So
to
it's
submit
not
the
that we
request.
present it and then they immediately take it and vote on it. There is time for review.
Yes. And they'll suggest changes. Paul or, the county manager or even the commissioners. Sometimes
I guess what I
We'll
want
make
to know,
changes.
Tina, are we to come here in February with our consolidated recommendation for you to take to the county manager and to the commissioners?
That is my hope, yes.
Do we need some time to get together, I think, to,
I agree. I don't think that can be done at our regular meeting.
here, the people sitting out here and people watching and,
Maybe not the vote, but the discussion that you
Well-
all need,
Well,
need to
then
have
when will
with.
we vote on it?
Well, I'm not gonna know that until I know the date that our
Can we-
budget's due.
So there will possibly be a called meeting to vote on the,
Potentially, yes.
I have quite a few questions about the budget that I've already worked on, because I knew last month it was on there. And I think before I can actually make any sound decisions, I need a few answers to some of these questions that I have. Can we
Okay, well,
do that at this point?
Either that or at your February 18th meeting, those can be the things as you're going line by line item. When you're going through, ask those questions.
I know we have quite a few absentee meetings between now and the primary in March. Is it permissible to add, you can't add the absentee meeting? That's what I thought.
But if you,
That is-
if you met, then you would just have to call, like your absentee meeting, you have one on the 11th, you could call a meeting to immediately follow that meeting. Of course, you have your 18th meeting, regular meeting, absentee meeting, immediately following that. Then you have a February 25th meeting, which is an absentee meeting. So while you're already there for your absentee meeting on any of these days, and then the next two are the 2nd and the 3rd of March.
So we could adjourn the absentee meeting and then immediately call a special meeting.
You could do that at any of those
Or a call
meetings
meeting,
until
at
you
that-
all have what
everybody's
you
there.
want your request to be.
And we do that on
And then you'd
11th or
already be
18th
there
or-
for your absentee meetings anyway.
Okay.
but I actually have some questions about this year's budget.
And I think that's what my questions are, this year's budget.
Okay. You all can address them now or another time.
I think if
Please
I-
know I'm not prepared to have,
Well, I have a
A lot of
copy of
information with
that.
me today, but-
I have a copy of that as of, let's see.
you have a copy in your packet today as well.
Now, well, this is through December 30th, and that's what I was
Well,
going
this-
to address, is through December 30th. I hadn't had an opportunity to look at those.
Okay.
But on that particular one, I had quite a few questions about our budget.
Okay.
Because this is only mine and Jeff's second go-round on this budget, so I've got my feet wet, and now I've got some questions, and I'm sure a lot of y'all know the answer to this, but I think for me, I need to have some answers in order to proceed with our budget process. And the first thing that I would like to ask is, does the Board of Elections have a separate checking account from the county? Or is it all in the county? Do you have do you have any petty cash, or do you have any?
We have $50 of petty cash that is used, really not anymore for reports, because almost all reports and information is sent by email now. So we don't, it's very rare we sell a printed report any longer. But that petty cash is used at times to make change during filing period and things of that nature. And then a report has to be turned into finance, balancing your petty cash.
Okay, does the Board of Elections go through an audit process?
All county departments do that I'm aware of. That would be a finance question. They don't come to our office, no. But I know they're in finance for a good bit with all county departments, going through your records, going through your invoices, what you've paid for, how you've paid for it. We do have a procurement card.
So the answer to that question is, to your knowledge, we don't actually have a separate Board of Elections audit.
I believe that to be true.
Okay. Do you know of any time in the past that an audit has been done?
Not that I'm aware of.
Under that December 30th, there was a, under miscellaneous receipts, there's one for $1,405 and one for $629. Where does that money come from? I know that under miscellaneous receipts, we have the filing fees for all the individuals in the municipalities in our elections, but that particular one just says miscellaneous receipt.
Well, we don't key it. I mean, finance is the one that keys. Everything you see on here is keyed by
Right, I
finance.
understand that, but where would we find the record as to how do we know what that is?
We can get our records and our receipts in the office, our copies for the filing fees or anything that was receipted in, and they can also be obtained from finance.
And maybe a lot of these questions I have is the way they're inputting this stuff, because to me, it doesn't give us a clear picture of what the money's spent on. Like you said, you have a card. Well, when you get to that we've got an Amazon card and we've got Quill, but nothing tells us what that money is spent for. That's all we have is just that and the amount.
I can provide all of that to you.
Okay.
Copies of all of our invoices, line item by line item.
Well, I think I would,
And
but I
also-
think, and for me, I think if it's finance that needs to correct it, then they should, instead of just putting Amazon card, they should put in there what that's for.
Our ledgers that we keep, and then of course there's a folder with the physical paperwork that is turned into finance in our office as well. And then of course it goes to finance to be paid. But we have ledgers for every expenditure, and it says who it went to and what it was for.
So if
And
we
it's
got
under
copies
that
of the
line item.
ledgers, it would tell us what that was for.
And I can provide that to you, yes.
Okay. I do think I would like it to be addressed to finance, that we would like some documentation as to what that is.
Okay, from them, or would you like for me to send you my
Now,
copies?
I think you're going to have to do it because they've already input all this. I don't think they're going to go back and redo that. But from
Right.
this day forward, I would like for them to put in there instead of just Amazon card, put what it's for.
Okay, well, in the interim, while we're talking to them to try to make those arrangements for you, I'll send you our ledgers
Okay.
that we keep. And if you want copies, then of course you can always come to the office and go through every folder we have.
Tina, as you know, we recently just started to get this report that Bonnie's talking about.
Right.
But let me ask you, when you get the report, do you review it?
Yes, very, very closely.
Well,
And
under,
sometimes I don't know, I can't remember off the top of my head what was $1,405.
But if there's
And I don't know because of the way it's keyed, but I can go back and look it up in my ledgers or pull the physical file and see exactly what that expenditure was for, or if it was something we took in and to whom it went or came from.
Tina, so you're saying finance keys everything on this report,
That's correct.
even the payroll?
We keep payroll.
You keep the payroll? So,
Well, it depends. Deb Schwartzlander keys in election day payroll. But full-time, part-time, and temporary staff are all put in by our office.
okay. So you do key some of it?
We do.
Okay. Well, you through, Bonnie?
no, I've got quite a few, but if you want to.
No, I've just got another, go ahead.
Well, under elections and board members, there are so many entries there for Leanna that there's additions, you're taking away money, giving credits, and I couldn't understand what all
We had
that
to
was
question
about.
that as well. We weren't sure what had occurred. Apparently Lana is on other boards with the county that she receives pay for, just as you all do. And there have been some times that was
Keyed wrong.
keyed wrong and had to be adjusted because it wasn't for elections, it was for another department's board.
Okay. The accruals that I see on here, now I run a business that we operate under the accrual accounting system, but where do these accruals, and it's some under just about every one of the items here, where do these accruals come from?
What page are you on, Bonnie?
You can for payroll, yes.
Page
And
two.
Amy,
Isn't there
she keeps the
a roll
payroll.
It is.
I'll let her answer that as far as the, like
Yeah.
our health insurance and FICA and all of those types of things. We have nothing to do with that. You all don't even approve, well, you do approve that number, those numbers, if you recall, in the budget, but those numbers are given to us by finance.
The accrual numbers are given to you by finance?
The health insurance, the FICA, and all those things where you're seeing these entries.
So would we be able to get an answer on that from the finance about where that comes from?
I don't
and what
see
that-
why not. That can be addressed with finance as well, yes.
Because it's under health insurance, it's under FICA, it's under, a lot of them here.
May I answer that? May I answer? What happened was, at the end of the fiscal year, June, the last week in June and the first week of July ran together as far as a payroll, and they have to separate that out. So they had to minus out the June or the July, so that all July would be falling under this fiscal year. And that week that was in June, that was on that pay period, would fall into the June, into the other fiscal year.
So when will it true up?
Pardon?
When, I think I understand that there's some shuffling to get things with the two pay periods overlapping, but at some point in time, wouldn't they true up, and when is that time?
Usually that'll occur on any of those things that we don't have anything to do with, such as what we just mentioned on some of those, at the end of each fiscal year,
Okay.
when they zero everything out or finish with that. Some
All
are
the-
prior to the end of the year, but most of them are done towards the end of the fiscal year.
Makes sense.
All the accruals are negative, show negative amounts, and they are all on 7/31/2019. So that means, I guess it went back to the old budget? Is that? Okay.
Under the miscellaneous professional, I know that there was an amendment to that because the county commissioners voted to allow us to have our meetings televised by Rockingham Update. But there is an encumbrance for $2,200 in there. Shouldn't that be under available budget instead of an encumbrance? Because doesn't he bill us monthly?
That's again another finance question, but I can answer it, because it was going to be a monthly fee that we'd be invoiced for. They wanted us to get a PO for the whole year. And so finance instructed us to obtain a PO, and with each monthly invoice that we receive from Rockingham Update, we attach a copy of that PO with it, and that's why the money was encumbered. And again, that's a finance procedure in ours.
Can you explain to those that don't know what a PO is, how that works here?
Anything that is over $500, you have to obtain a purchase order for prior to ordering that service or that product. And that is done through our purchasing agent. We have to request that PO, explaining what line item to take it from, explaining what it's for. And then, if it's approved, then we get the PO.
Under the service maintenance, what is Piedmont Protective?
The new security system that was put in by the county to replace the old one that was in our building, and the county replaced it and replaced the fire. And election night, that was election night, was it not, the Piedmont? Oh, the monthly?
Yes.
Yeah, the monthly monitoring fee. But we also had to pay them a service call because election night, the workshops alarm went off and we couldn't get it to stop. And maintenance came back and they couldn't get it to stop either. So it called the company and they actually had maintenance disconnect it and had to come out and fix it.
Is that what the $140 was under the building repairs for them? It says building
Yes.
repairs, Piedmont Protective?
Yes,
Why would that be considered building repairs?
because it's part of the building. Finance approves that.
Under the equipment repair, what is the Carrier Enterprises?
That's our heat and air.
So we had to make some repairs on that?
Yes, maintenance had to take care of arranging that, and yes.
And I have already talked to you about the Amazon and the Quicken under the general supplies. I really would like to know what those invoices are for instead of just Amazon and Quill. Under the general supplies, do either one of those credit cards earn points or savings or anything for the Board of Elections?
Sometimes Quill will have something like you can, once you've bought something, you might get $5 off a coupon. Finance allows that to be done.
But they don't have any kind of points earnings or anything?
No. And the only card we have is the county procurement card. We don't have a card for Quill, we have an account. They actually send an invoice. And the Amazon card is not in possession of the Board of Elections. The Amazon card is in possession of purchasing department, I believe. But we have a password, we can go to the account to get the free shipping if their price is more competitive to get it there than somewhere else. And we are eligible for that free shipping.
Under the precinct supplies, you bill the municipalities for $1,361.78 for precinct supplies, but we only spent $417.40 in precinct supplies.
Some of it probably hasn't come out yet because we haven't gotten all the invoices back to turn in. I will have to check on that.
I'm just curious, what would the precinct supplies be, other than pens and,
The supply checklists and all of the big 3 blue tubs, all of their bags, all of the paper, all of the things that we have to send out to them, down to pens, down to flashlights, in our training manuals that you all get a copy of each election, and in our black informational notebooks that we send out with our supplies to the precincts. Everything listed
So
on
part of
those
that,
supply checklists.
part of that precinct supplies would be the printing of those notebooks that you're putting in there?
Printing comes out of printing,
Printing,
but
that's what I thought.
paper comes out of general supplies.
So-
It used to come out of printing, but finance said that really needed to come out of general supplies. The actual printing of something, like how many copies did we use during that time frame, or excuse me, or if we had a printer, print something, such as our ballots or training manuals or anything like that.
So
That comes
basically,
out of
what you're
printing.
putting in those tubs is already there. You're just replacing something if it gets broken, or you're
We
putting
have-
in pens and papers, and that comes to, just replacement of that stuff comes to $1,361.78?
Well, we oftentimes have to get new supplies. Like we just had, getting ready to order curbside, several of our curbside alarm bells that curbside boaters drive over to alert workers. And they're pricey, and several have broken, and we no longer have any spares, and we're short two. So when things like that occur, or equipment is changed, or any of our supplies is discontinued, and a new supply is being used, or if we have new rules or regulations from the State Board of Elections, sometimes it's due to law changes, sometimes it's due to their mandates. So we have to buy things accordingly, and a lot of it is, yes, replenishing.
Well, the one that you gave us as of January the 17th, which would have been Friday, shows a total of $649.19. I would think that amount would be reflective in what you bill the municipalities.
Well, I don't have that with me. I'm gonna have to check on that.
Okay. As far as that report, I think that that may finish up my questions. I did have some about the municipal election invoices. If you want to finish up with this one.
Well, my question about the municipal election was, you were going to send out a report, a final report of, and you did for a couple of weeks, I believe, about how the precinct officials were used and those that were sent home, and the time for each one,
Okay.
as opposed to using them. You know, you and I went over that.
We did, and I thought that had been sent. Had a lot of requests for a lot of information that wasn't readily
I don't
available.
recall seeing that, so
Okay,
if
I'll
you would
check.
send that, I'd appreciate it.
You will get that, along with the other things that you've already been sent.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
One thing under the municipal election invoices that I was surprised about, and I'm sure some of you all were surprised, why don't we return the filing fees to the cities?
It's law.
It's law, it's in general statute. Do you know what that one is?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I'll find out for you.
I'll look it up, that's fine, I'll find it.
But what you do is just give them credit for the filing fees, right?
Right.
You
We
don't-
just give them credit on the invoice. We don't actually send it back to
Return
them. We receive it into finance, and then they get credited the filing fees for their municipality on the invoice that is sent, which you all got copies of.
Tell me what this election technicians overtime pay is. That IT?
Yes.
That is
And-
IT
And maintenance,
and maintenance?
yes.
And another thing that took me a little bit by surprise is, why do the municipalities pay for the board's pay?
They don't pay for your monthly pay. After you all get paid monthly.
We get the extra $300, and I
And
understand that, and that's what they're paying for, is the extra $300.
Right, that's an election bonus, if you will, and they do get charged for that.
Is
And
that law?
I don't know if that's law or not. It's been like that since I've been working with it, and that was before 2012. So, I can check on that as well.
Who does the printing for the Board of Elections? Because I noticed they were charged $3,330 for just printing, and then the ballot printing was $3,096. My first question is, who does that? And secondly, what's included in that first figure, the $3,330? And thirdly, are we getting any estimates from people to compare to see if somebody's cheaper than somebody else?
We do. We're also charged, now not for our ballots. We have used the same ballot printer for years, There are, I think, 2 newer ones that are out, and we have looked at them, but other counties kind of had some issue with their ballot. That's something you don't want. We've used that same ballot printer for years.
So you're saying the county, as far as the government of the county, has had issues with these people printing?
Not this county, no.
But other counties have had issues with that, is what you're saying? I'm unclear as to what you're...
Some other counties have tried, I know at least 1, maybe 2 of the newer printers that are now delving into ballots and, have had some problems. I don't know how severe, don't know the, full scope of the issues. As far as our ballots and our coding and our layout, which goes into part of that and all of that, we've never had a problem, so we've never looked at a newer way to do it.
And who does this other printing, and what's included in that?
It depends on what needs to be printed. Sometimes it's training manuals. And we've been using Wright Printing. The county used to do it when we had central services. And that position was eliminated upon David's retirement. So we didn't have that option anymore. It was certainly a little less inexpensive there. It's definitely, and we're also charged for every copy we make in our office. We're on the Toshiba program that I think all offices in the county are on. I don't know that for sure, but we're on that program. That's what we have, and we get charged quarterly, I believe.
So I'm making the assumption then for those things that fall in that category that could be done by, say, a Wright Printing or someone, that we do in fact periodically put those jobs, well, I don't know if you put them out for bid, but you do shop to see who's out there and who offers what services at what fees.
We do. Another thing that goes into that is our absentee ballot envelopes and our provisional ballot envelopes have to be printed by a vendor. And we just had to go through this because they change a lot. And they're changing again. You're going to see a different envelope.
That would be a local vendor, like people that we've used previously.
Sometimes it depends on either who has the best price or who can get them done. Sometimes the manner of the envelope, certain vendors can't do. Like our provisional has that
Is there a
sleeve.
minimum as to how many you normally, how many different vendors you seek information from in making those decisions?
We usually have to do 3.
3. And that's...
But if it's one, again, especially with our printing, like our ballot printing, that's what's been done for well over a decade. And even longer than that, we have not had
Thank you.
to look for another.
And I wasn't on the board in 2017, and you gave us the comparisons for the municipalities as far as cost for 2017 and 2019. So in order for me to really look at that, I'm going to need the information as to how many people voted early in 2017, how many people worked on election day in 2017, and also how many people worked at the one stop.
I can get those lists to you.
Okay, thank you.
Tina, ballots are quite expensive, we know that, and we have been very lucky using Print-elect. But for the new board members, would you explain to them, please, why we have to order so many ballots?
Now, that is required.
Yes.
The state board requires us to, and it could even be in law, I don't know. But they tell us for each election what percentage of ballots, and it's usually 100%. So if 3,500 people are registered to vote in, I'm just making up, in Central Precinct, you have to order that many ballots. Now, not everybody's going to vote, but you have to account for people that same day register and vote, vote provisional. You don't know how many people are going to do those things. Spoiled ballots. You don't know how many ballots are going to spoil. So that's why they require that. In our smaller elections, they typically, anywhere between, they've gone as low as 50% of the registered voter total, and as high as 80%, that they require us to order that many ballots. But we're told by them what percentage for each precinct we have to use. I mean, we have to purchase.
Under the adopted budget, can you explain to me what this equipment service maintenance is? What's covered under that?
That's our DS200 voting tabulators and our Automark handicap accessible ballot marking machine.
Is it different companies that provide that?
It's ES&S. It's part of Print-Elect.
So there
But
isn't
that's where we
another-
got our machines from, and that's who we're contracted with.
Okay. Under the equipment repair, what's included in that? What equipment is included in that? Because you've got the Automarks and the DS200s up here, so what's included in that equipment repair?
I'll have to look and see exactly what we've spent it on, but it can be anything. If we have a monitor go bad in the office, we've had to get a new mouse before, and it would come out of that. It could also come out of general supplies, depending on what it is. Typically, if it's equipment repair or building repair, we don't have a lot of money there to begin with. So if it's something that we don't have enough to replace, I'll usually call finance and speak to the director or assistant director or whatnot and ask, can I take this out of general supplies? Is that allowable? Or I do have an equipment repair. Does this fall under? And same thing with building repair. But it could be any of those things.
Anything in the building?
Anything that's equipment. It wouldn't come under voting equipment. But we have had to do laptops, computers, mice, parts for the heating and air unit, different things of that nature.
Under that printing, also, there was a figure for public request. What would that be?
It should be a receipt. What page are you on?
I'm not sure it's under printing. I quit doing pages.
If it was for a public request, it was going to be a printout, and it should be a receipt.
Something you printed for someone that made a public request.
Correct.
Okay.
Which I mentioned a little while ago, we don't have very many of those types of requests anymore because people just get them by email.
Well, for now, I think that, let me see, I think that takes care of all my questions.
Does anybody else have any more questions? This was.
I think I do have one question.
Go ahead.
And it's not a question about any particular account. It's more of a question of procedure. And I haven't experienced this but once before. But there seems to be a departure in how we're doing the budget this cycle. And I'm not sure I understand the rationale for that change.
Well, if you recall what happened, the board passed our 1920 budget. And after the fact, some commissioners were contacted about concerns about our budget after it had already been passed. So it was my hope. It's a presidential year, really busy time. Budget falls right during our primary. I just am hoping that you all will have the time and be able to address any of your concerns before you ever pass it. And that way, once it gets to the county, it should be, unless they make changes, there shouldn't be any concerns that you all have after the fact.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else? We have gone from 2020-21 budget back to 2019-20 budget with these questions, which is okay. I don't mind that. I don't know how to do that. It's kind of a, I guess we need to do it in public setting. So thanks for bearing with us. So now we will go to item number 6, the 2021 primary election preparation. And I will again hand that over to Tina or Amy to talk to us about the preparation for 2020 primary election in March.
IT is in the process now. The state board has done 2 new releases on our SEAMS software, which is our election software that we have through the state board, which happens throughout the year. That's nothing new. They've had 2 back-to-back ones. So IT is in the process of doing those updates. We just got our coding, our information for the election, for our reporting system, and also for setting up our one-stop early voting laptops for use, and training laptops for use, and election day laptops for use. And IT is getting ready to begin that process. Once they get all of our computers updated and everything ready, then we'll start on getting all of that set up for the election and tested for the election. And that's going well. Absentee by mail has been very slow thus far. We've only mailed out 17 ballots.
So that the request date opened on January 13th, and we've had 17 requests for ballots. Is that right?
Correct.
And 17 sent out.
Correct.
Do you have an idea how many we have?
Did all
returned?
Susan, did all 17 go, or there's some that you were still waiting for information?
There's some that need letters.
You're still waiting to hear from their letter? If they don't provide information on the formal request form of the state boards that we have to use, if they're missing required information on that, Susan has to put it in the queue, and it generates a letter to them telling them what information we need in order for us to process that request.
So how many, do you know how many we've gotten returned?
None.
None of it. Does the request form have language in there regarding the photo ID?
It did, and they just removed, that's why our absentee envelopes, all of our forms, all of our voter cards from, the state board, all of those things had, and this happened to us several years ago, because it came into law, and then it was taken out of the law and put back. Well, each time that happened, all of our required forms have to be redone and reprinted. So all the verbiage is now being taken off of everything,
So
and we're in the process of getting them replaced.
So the first letters went out, or ballots went out after a request form had the correct language on it, right?
Yes.
So no confusion about that. Okay. Does anything else, Tina, about the primary elections?
We're working with our one-stop chief judges to get their lists finalized for the schedule that you all passed. And we're not really aware of any problems there right now. The election day chief judges, we're working with them on getting staffed. This is something you will be addressing in a little while. We do have quite a few chief judge vacancies that you are going to need to address. And some precincts are really going to be short-staffed. So
This will be done and closed, is that right?
Yes, ma'am. The Salvation Army that we use for our Reidsville One Stop has contacted us and asked for using their building for the time frame that we use it for. They're under some new management and whatnot. We're still welcome to have the space, which has worked well for us. And we don't have a lot of other options either. But they have asked if we could make some type of a donation for the use of that building for the 2 weeks, whatever that were there. So we checked with finance, and we can't make a donation, but they can do like what some of the malls have done in years past and send us a prorated power bill for the days we were there, like whatever the power bill was, prorated for the days we were there. and bill us for that.
Is that a common practice?
Not usually, no, but when, in the shopping centers and malls that we've used, it was, yes.
Was it just for the power bill or included
We
water?
had to do
or any
water,
other
we
thing?
had to do water a couple of times at the Reedsville Mall, because they didn't have water on, because the unit was vacant. That's why we could use it.
And is there a charge, would there be a charge for internet service or anything like that?
And no, we don't connect to the internet with our, at our voting sites. We're not allowed to.
Is that something we need to vote on?
Please.
Well, she said that finance, you said finance said that
That we can do that.
we could
If
look at
you,
the-
if you choose, if you all don't want to do that, and we can take that out of precinct supplies, that's where we paid, we had to pay an emergency electrician to come at one of our sites in the mall one year. And finance, and we weren't budgeted for that, we didn't know that was gonna happen. So they had us, since it was for a voting site, they had, let us pay for it out of precinct supplies or general supplies, where we did have some money, because we weren't anticipating that expenditure. But,
So I guess what they're saying, we could just look at their bills and prorate them for the days that we're there.
yes, they can invoice us for the days that we're there.
And finance approved that. So
Yes.
I don't think we need to, nothing we can do about it. So if that's what they want, so. Any other questions about item number 6?
Let's see. Actually, I do have something I want to ask Tina. You know, the last election, I guess it was, there was a controversy about the distance between the door. You know, from the door.
Yes.
We had always had a little corral area.
Yes.
And we did find out that it's not legal to do that. So have you made arrangements in your training to tell?
Well, we're going to have to update our maps and all of our stuff for that. And we have been telling them, we haven't trained them, we haven't trained yet for this election. But at the state board, we're talking to someone about the issue that we had, the one issue that we had. Because ironically, we had so many issues, 10 years ago, with campaigning, and people all over the place and chasing people down at their cars and whatnot, that when the board decided, looking at the statute where it says it's got to be an area no less than 25 feet, no more than 50 feet, and the board decided, I was in the office, I wasn't director at the time, so I wasn't part of the meeting, some of you were, but that, well, we're going to define the areas, and we've been doing that ever since.
But I mean, we know now general statute says we can't do that.
Correct, and still looking at that, and that's one of the things we were hoping to find out for sure at the conference from campaign finance. Were we told correctly? Because if you look at that statute, and again, I don't know it by the top of my head, but and I think this is how the decision was made to start those defined areas to begin with. The way it reads, it could really be interpreted that. But we were told by somebody in campaign finance at the state board when we were discussing the problem that we had, that we cannot do that. So, and if that's the case, then we are going to have to change it. And that will just put it back to marking off the 25 or the 50 feet, but they won't have defined areas. They can basically go anywhere they want to.
Well,
again.
true, and that is correct, and it was an issue with some of the candidates last time. So definitely that they need to be told that.
Oh, yeah, and it'll be updated, of course, public awareness emails and in our informational notebooks and our materials that go to our officials. Just like any time we're changing a procedure for whatever reason, we're changing it.
I think and when we did that, put that limit on the distance, far distance, our intentions were good. because we were getting complaints that people were being assaulted and confronted as they got out of the cars in the parking lot. And so we wanted to put it in that, well, apparently we can't do that. So you can, as long as you don't get within 25 feet of the door, then you can go out as far as you want to. So we'll see what complaints we have from that. Thank you. Anything else on item 6, primary elections preparation?
No.
If not, we'll go to item number 7, unfinished business.
One item I have under unfinished business, have we received the reimbursement for the voter ID maker and the phone bank from the state?
I'm not sure what you mean by phone bank. Our phone
I
bank
don't
has
know,
been
that's what it's on
purchased.
there, it says phone bank. We've got a charge on there for $2,334, and we've got one for $6,809, and it says voter ID maker and phone bank.
Okay, that's how it was keyed. It's actually two separate things, but, yes, have we gotten the reimbursement? For the ID maker, they sent, then the state board paid that, and we got that reimbursement. Now, we're not being reimbursed for the phone bank. That is, our working computers in the office had to be upgraded to Windows 10 by the last day of December 2019. So we had to purchase,
Why is that called phone bank?
Exactly.
why is it called the phone bank?
I know at one time, we had a phone bank. I mean, we had 3 or 4 people in there on election night, and the calls rotated.
We do
And
on
we-
busy elections. We certainly will in November. We might
But we
even-
haven't done that in a while.
We didn't do it in the primary in 18. We did do it, and there were 3 people there in the general election in November in 18. And we certainly didn't do it in the municipals. It's not that busy. So we never do it for municipal elections or second primaries. And sometimes with the primary, sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, really depending on who's available or who's not, or how
And
busy.
what's the phone bank used for?
IT sets the phone bank up because on busy elections, all we're doing all day is answering the phone, either from precinct people, people calling in with questions, complaints, but most of it is, where am I registered to vote and where do I go? On this being election day, am I registered to vote? Where do I go? So to free us up so we can handle issues or offer assistance to our staff or our people or people coming into our office. We do have some people trained to work on the phone bank, and they will take those calls. So when they're getting all those calls that say, am I registered to vote? Where do I go vote? They can field all those calls for us and free our lines up for calls from our precincts, our precinct officials or board members or news media, whomever.
The other question I had under unfinished business was, did the senior deputy director have to go and open and close the Madison precinct polls this time? We didn't get that worked out with them, that she would not have to
for
go?
the municipals?
Uh-huh.
No, we don't have remote sites in municipal elections, just Wentworth. The early voting's only in Wentworth.
I wasn't talking about early voting, I was talking about opening and closing that site up there in Madison, the precinct up there, that we had to pay
Wasn't a
travel
precinct,
for.
It was an early voting site.
So,
Maintenance, someone from maintenance does the Reedsville one. That's some of their overtime. Someone from maintenance does the Eden one. And we don't have anybody to do the western side, the one-stop early voting site.
so the precinct officials open and close that site for the precinct voting,
On
for the
election day.
municipal election.
Correct.
So I'm still not clear.
I'm not either.
Let me see if I understand. The Eden Library and the Madison Library are used for those purposes. How
For
many-
early voting.
Yes. And I think what Bonnie's alluding to was that we were under the impression that Amy was going and opening and closing that precinct. Am I even remotely close? Is that, are we still doing that?
We've never done that.
We've never done that.
Only for early voting. Each day of early voting, we have to go upload our voter history from that day off of every laptop. We got to secure our ballots, get them back to our office, get them secured in our office. There's paperwork and procedures and security measures that have to take place at the end of the night. We don't have anyone to do the Western one-stop early voting site.
Well, I think what I'm confused
So
about
we said the
is
same
we
thing.
were told, we were questioning some travel expenses, and we were told that Amy had to go every day and open up this precinct and then go back and close this precinct because the library there would not allow anybody else to do it except for a member of the staff.
It was a one-stop site. Election day's only open one day. Amy has to go every morning and every evening to open and close the Western one-stop
So I
site.
think we say the same thing.
Okay, but the day of the
Maybe not.
election, when it had to be opened and closed, did Amy have to go and do that, or did the official precinct open and close that precinct?
Luann opens her precinct on election day. It's only early voting that we have to have someone go, get everything back to our office, get everything secured, and get everything brought back, and get the paperwork done, and the voter history, and then go back the next one.
Does she also do the library and Eden early voting?
Who, Luann?
No, Amy.
No, maintenance, Robert Dillon.
Robert
Does
that,
Eden,
do-
and
do-
Billy
we
Booker
have- Do we have
does
to pay him for that?
Breezeville, on, when it's overtime. If it's any hours out of 8 to 5, just like the overtime we've paid them, then the answer is yes.
So he'd be working in the morning, in the afternoon it would be overtime.
Typically, yes. And they're not there all that long, but it's got to be done.
Well, I think the issue before was mileage, the expense of mileage to Madison every day. But it seems it had to be more than one day.
One-stop early voting has been anywhere from 7 days to 14.
But, and I think that was our concern about that. But it's my understanding that a county vehicle will be made available if we choose to do, if Amy chooses to do that.
And we had talked about that at one time, and we're going to check on that again when we have to do that for this election. But the concern at the time that the county had was for such a long time frame.
Well, I'm told now there's no issue about that. There are plenty of cars,
That would be great.
and that one would be available.
Well, then that's what we'll do.
But you
That would be
can,
great.
I suggest you reserve a car for that,
We will.
or just ask for
Yeah,
that.
that's good news.
You through, Bonnie?
I'm finished, thank you.
Go ahead.
Have the commissioners approved the money for the primary?
I haven't heard anything back, and
Have
we're
you?
not on the, agenda.
We haven't
submitted
approved
the-
it, have we?
Yeah,
Well, I sent it to y'all.
I don't think we voted on that, to approve that amount.
Is that what was in your budget that we did approve?
Well, that was answered like what happened the first time, being asked to provide an estimate of what our officials' pay was going to be, and that would include one stop.
I thought we
We
voted on-
discussed our early voting, but we did not discuss approving that amount to send it to the county commissioners. We were given that amount, but we did not approve that, to my knowledge.
But it is included in this budget, is it not?
The one we're in now,
Yes.
no, because remember, they took it in each
They
election.
took the money and set it aside. It's
That's right.
there, it's just not in that actual
Right.
budget. It was
So we've been
$110,000 that was taken and set aside.
Yeah, we've been providing them estimates to get the money approved.
I don't think we did either.
Okay, I thought we approved it. I thought we talked about it and approved to send it.
But she attached this budget to this letter to the commissioners for this amount of money. And we had voted on this.
Yeah.
For the 2020 primary?
Well, you attached the budget to it.
Hunt, I'm sorry.
Let me show you.
Please.
Please.
Says adopted budget.
Oh, because it shows that initially that's what we had requested. And then we wanted us, when the law changed again, for you all to pass your plan. Because the law changed again, changed the times, changed the required number of days and everything before you all could pass your one-stop plan. They requested
That's what
an
we
updated
and
estimate. So that's why I gave them a copy of that budget, because that's what was initially asked for.
in December, we passed the one-stop plan.
Yes,
And what was sent was just the days and hours that we approved
yes.
in December. Okay. All right. Anybody got anything else on unfinished business?
No.
Well, there was something that we asked John to,
About the municipal?
yes.
Okay. It came up last month and it was kind of left hanging. The cost for the municipalities for the one-stop voting, and there was a question whether or not it was worth the money being spent on it. And John looked up and he was correct that we have to have early voting for the municipal primaries. I called the School of Government and talked with Bob Joyce, and he said, yes, if you have absentee ballots, then you have to have early voting. Absentee ballots is a form of early voting. And he said if you have the absentee ballots, then you have to have early voting. So, but it's you know, as it turned out, it was like $600 per municipality. It wasn't a big deal. You know, I thought it was a lot of money, but, you know, and we had 313 people, is that right, Amy, to vote early?
That's correct.
Which is not very many people to vote early, and we spent, you know, $3,500 or something like that. It was 6 municipalities paid about $600 each, and like, you know, some of them didn't get a very good return on the money, but anyway, we have to have early voting at least one site for municipal election.
May I clarify, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
On this, is that the municipality for municipal elections has to choose to have absentee voting. And if they choose to have absentee voting, then they must hold early voting. But also the municipalities may also decline to have absentee voting, in which case they would not have early voting.
So you said if they say, okay, we don't want our people to be able to request an absentee ballot and vote absentee, then they can do away with their early voting.
But typically what happens is they would pass a resolution per the statute requires passing the municipality passing a resolution stating that they opt to have absentee voting, at which point they would have to also offer early voting. I don't know if this answers your question on point or if it clarifies any vagueness.
Okay, all right.
I have one thing.
Okay, go ahead.
I was just reading this email from Tina back to the issue about the early voting cost for the precinct officials. Tina says here, our board meets next on October 15th. This will be on the agenda. Did we vote on that October 15th?
Was that for the primary?
Yes.
We voted on it in December.
We voted on the early one-stop plan in December.
In December. You have to go back and look at the minutes.
That's what we're talking about, right? Yeah, because that's a total.
But all we voted on was the days that we would have early one-stop. We didn't vote on the budget for that. Because we talked about how many people would be working each day, and there was 12 requested, and by the way, we did request 14 in the 2018. You and Jeff didn't remember that, but there were 14 people requested in the 2018.
That's a lot.
It is.
Okay.
So it should, if we in fact voted on this, it should be in our October 15 minutes.
Well, I mean, we voted on early elections for the primary, early voted for the primary in March, in December, and if we voted on those days, then somebody's got to pay for it, so.
Well, I know, but the cost is the issue, not the days. And I would hate for this to appear before the county commissioners again and then ask you, has your board approved this? And if you had not. You know what I'm saying?
Well, we approved the plan. And somebody's got to pay for it.
The plan has nothing to do with the number of people we use.
Well,
But when you say somebody has to pay for
We always figure
it-
the maximum number of people at early voting sites, which is, we can't figure, well, this site's gonna have 5 people on Tuesday. We don't know that. And it always comes in less than, if we have 12 in there, if we have 14 in there, it always comes out less than that. We won't average that many.
Well, if you're 100% positive about that, then you can address it with the county
I was
commissioners.
glad to. If they ask for it, which they've
I
had
don't
this
have the
since
minutes.
sometime in December, and they haven't yet. So they've had, tonight counts 2 meetings. It's not on the agenda tonight, so.
Okay.
All right.
But one point to that, Royce, when you say that somebody has to pay for it, if you read the statute says that the county commissioners are responsible for reasonable amounts. It doesn't say they gotta fund everything. So it's our job to make sure that when they go to them, they're reasonable amounts, is my point on that.
Well, if you can tell me how many few people we need at each voting site each day, then we'll try to do that. I don't think you can do that.
No, you can't.
Well,
It's an estimate, exactly.
so we have to estimate on a high number, knowing it's gonna be less than that.
Well, all righty.
Okay, moving along to item number 8. I believe that Tina or Amy has given us packets for our conference, which is in Concord
It's not
on
on the agenda.
That's not item number 8.
this new business.
Yes,
not-
it is. Yes,
that's
it
new
is.
business.
It is,
New
yes.
business. Okay, packets for the conference, February the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th in Concord. And she also has a picture and information about where we're to be staying. So I guess everybody has reservations and paid for the conference, is that right, Tina? Is John going?
That should be determined because I have county attorney's conference that same week, so I'm gonna have to look at my schedule again. But I will let the appropriate individuals know very soon.
Do you have a room reserved for him, Tina?
No.
Okay.
Amy sent the information when she was reserving all the rooms, and
Okay, he don't know yet, so.
didn't know if he was going or not, so. Okay.
Is there anything else on new business? I have a couple more items. Our February the 11th meeting is an absentee meeting, and we need to decide if if we're going, I mean, what we do there is not like a regular meeting. We look at any absentee ballots that have been returned, and they have looked over and see if all the requirements are met, and if they are approved, either approved or disapproved, and we vote on that at the time. So, I mean, I don't know if we need to, number one, if we need to meet here or at the board office, and if we start counting, which sometime between now and March 3rd at our absentee meeting, we'll start putting ballots in the machines, which are down there. Tina,
I think when we agreed on this, that we agreed that our regular board meetings would be here, but our absentees would be at the elections office, did we not?
And that's what we've done previously.
Yeah,
We
okay.
did.
All right, so the absentee meeting on the 11th will be at the board office, and the 25th will be, no, excuse me, the 18th will be our regular meeting here, and then after that, we'll have an absentee meeting. So do we have that here, or we move to the boardroom to have our absentee meeting after our regular meeting here?
We moved the last time.
Go to the board.
Okay. And the 25th will be an absentee meeting
Really?
at the board room. Okay.
Yeah.
So for you folks out there that are interested, we'll be back here on the 18th of February. One other item that's come to my attention, and I want to throw it out there. There was one county in North Carolina had some controversy about saying the Pledge of Allegiance at board meetings, at election board meetings, and the board voted it down, and some of the members wanted to have it, some of the board members wanted to have it, and the public wanted to have it. I don't really care. I mean, I wear a flag, and it don't really matter to me. If anybody is interested in us having the pledge, I'm certainly willing to do that, and we can put it on the agenda. This was down in Bladen County, and if you want to Google it, you can find out what went on down there. But does anybody have any comments or desires to add that to our regular agenda?
I'd like to see it added, and also a prayer. I think we all need blessing before we come into these meetings and make these decisions.
Okay, can we have a separate motion on those two?
I would make a motion that we would say our Pledge of Allegiance, or we would pledge our allegiance to our flag at the beginning of each one of our Board of Elections meetings.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Second? Okay, there's a motion made and second to add the Pledge of Allegiance to our agenda. Right after calling the meeting to order, I'll call a question. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Okay, that was approved unanimously. Now, do you have another motion?
I would like to make a motion that we would begin our meeting with prayer right after the call to order.
Is there a second?
I second it.
There's a motion second to start the meetings with, also with the prayer. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Aye. Did you vote then?
I said add prayer.
Chad?
She said yes.
Okay. All right, so the meeting will also start, I don't know who's going to do that. It's not going to be me. But
I'm sure we can find folks that'll be more than glad to do it. If not, then I'm sure it's some board members that'll be more than glad to pray.
okay. All right, the motion carried 3-2 to add that also.
3-2.
3-2.
Yes, that's correct. I voted against it.
Did you vote?
I voted against.
You voted against, okay.
Yes.
I didn't hear you vote.
I'm sorry. Okay, does anybody else have any new business?
I do not.
If not, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11 A6 and 143-318.11 A3.
I make that motion.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Okay,